Royal Guard jumped into Camilla's helicopter and destroyed her escape plan. She didn't wait for authorization, didn't file a manifest, didn't even bring her full security escort, just boarded a helicopter with a retired pilot and a destination no one was supposed to trace. But what Camilla didn't expect was the Coldstream guard who read through the flight order, saw the fake clearance, and caught the escape plan mid-air. He didn't call for backup. He didn't raise his voice. He ran toward the rotors and jumped. Now, before we reveal where she was going and what she was trying to escape from, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from and hit subscribe with the bell icon turned on. Because today wasn't about grounding a flight. It was about a guard who refused to let the crown be carried away under royal silence. Windsor's upper helipad terrace had the kind of chill that soaked through uniform wool. Rain had swept in before dawn, thin, silvery, persistent, leaving the limestone flagstones slick beneath Sergeant Darian Wolfe's boots. The rotor pads, all 4 of them, sat empty under amber perimeter lights. The mist curled low, hiding the castle's east wing in a foggy silhouette. Wolfe stood just under the edge of the terrace canopy, hands behind his back, posture upright but relaxed. He wasn't expecting anything. Nothing was logged. Nothing was cleared. Just another cold watch morning in a post that rarely stirred before 0700. He glanced at the aviation control display embedded in the wall panel beside him, still blank. No aircraft listed inbound, no aircraft scheduled outbound. So when a crewman approached, high-vis vest soaked across the shoulders, carrying a small flight deck tablet and muttering under his breath, Wolfe turned to meet him with the calm readiness of a soldier who didn't like surprises. "Which pad?" Wolfe asked. "Pad C," the man replied, frowning. They just radioed through, said to prep it for immediate VIP lift. "Who's they?" "No name, just a call sign and an operations push. Nothing royal stamped, but they told us to fuel for 40 minutes at full rotor. That usually means Windsor regional transfer." Wolfe frowned. "Nothing scheduled today." The crewman shrugged. "Not my lane, mate. Just told to prep it." He moved toward the fuel hatch. Wolfe stepped inside the terrace control booth and tapped into the household aviation ledger. Every aircraft movement, every ground clearance, every pad assignment, it was all time-stamped, double-signed, and recorded by security protocols. Pad C was listed dormant until Monday. No overrides, no temporary bookings, no linked pilot credentials. He switched systems this time into the maintenance console and checked inbound aircraft telemetry. One aircraft just pinged a handshake to the system. Tail code XR221. Make Europter E C145. Registry Crown Internal Fleet. Current location Windsor Hangar 2, status spooling. Wolfe stared at the screen. That aircraft was part of the older Crown support fleet, not assigned to the Queen Consort, not in rotation for public engagement, and not authorized for solo VIP departure without full manifest submission. He stepped back onto the wet flagstones, eyes scanning the terrace. Somewhere behind the scenes, someone had given a takeoff order for a helicopter that didn't exist on paper, and now that rain-soaked tarmac was being used for something that no one had cleared. He tapped the comms line. "Windsor Flight Control. This is Sergeant Wolfe at Pad C. What's the status of aircraft XR221? A pause. "We don't have that listed in today's deployment, Sergeant. Should we?" Wolfe didn't answer immediately. He just turned toward the far hangar where the sound of spooling rotors began cutting faintly through the morning haze. The air didn't feel quiet anymore. Wolfe walked with quiet purpose across the paved corridor, linking the upper pad to Hangar 2's internal annex. The rain struck his shoulders in steady rhythm, but he didn't flinch. His uniform was already damp, cap brim dripping. What mattered now wasn't comfort. It was protocol. He pushed through the entry hatch and made for the wall-mounted flight log terminal. It was unattended, just a lone screen humming in the corner, reflecting dull light off polished steel. A quick swipe of his clearance band pulled up the rotor activity for Pad C. There it was again, XR 2021, scheduled for a single flight departure 0645 to a temporary estate pad in the Chiltern Hills. No return logged, no co-pilot listed and under flight lead. Captain Rowan Firth Wolf's brow lowered. That couldn't be right. Firth had retired the year prior after a cardiac episode during a training cycle. He wasn't active, he wasn't cleared, and he certainly wasn't reactivated without medical re-certification. Wolf accessed the personnel duty role confirmed. Rowan Firth retired, status inactive. No clearances. His pulse tightened. He opened the clearance folder associated with this flight. Only one document had been uploaded, and it wasn't a formal order. It was a photocopy, low-res, unscanned, lacking watermark and counter-signature, a forged manifest, if he'd ever seen one. The departure reason was listed simply as private consort logistics movement. No escort required, no flight code, no registry stamp, no cargo list. Wolf tapped into Windsor Aviation Control. "This is Sergeant Wolf. Confirm the pilot signature for the EC-145 lifting from Pad C. Checking one moment. A pause then. No pilot signed in for that bird today. No manifest, no clearance. Nothing on the Royal Escort list either. That chopper should be grounded." Wolf exhaled slowly. Understood. He ended the line to gaze still locked on the flickering screen. This wasn't a paperwork error. It was a fabrication. Someone had inserted an unscheduled departure under the radar with a grounded pilot's name, no listed cargo, and no operational oversight, and someone had expected the guard on duty to be too tired, too distracted, or too differential to question it. But Sergeant Darian Wolf wasn't trained to stand aside. He was trained to spot what didn't belong. And this flight didn't belong to the Crown. It belonged to someone trying to outrun it. The sound of approaching tires echoed oddly across the terrace. Too smooth, too controlled for the usual palace motor pool. Wolf turned his head just as a matte black SUV with no royal insignia crested the access ramp. No license plates, just rain sliding off the hood and tinted windows that gave no hint of passengers. It came to a full stop directly beside Pad C. The driver stepped out, unfamiliar, no formal livery. He didn't announce the arrival. He simply opened the rear door and remained still. Queen Camilla emerged a beat later. She wore a storm cloak drawn high around her shoulders, the hood raised. No crown, no brooch, no public escort. Not even her usual press secretary. Just two aides behind her, one carrying a slim overnight case, the other hauling a long reinforced document box with brass corners and a diplomatic lock plate. Wolf watched her movements. She didn't glance around, didn't speak to anyone. She moved like someone executing a step rehearsed a dozen times. "Keep the rotors hot," she murmured to the pilot, already standing at the helipad stairwell. He gave a quick nod. Too quick, and turned back toward the aircraft. Wolf's eyes narrowed. That wasn't a Crown flight jacket, no RAF insignia, no aviation rank, just a blank flight patch and a call sign stitched in worn thread. F. He stepped forward, not blocking, not posturing, just present. "Mom," Wolf said evenly. "May I confirm your manifest?" Camilla didn't stop walking. "Everything's pre-cleared, files been lodged." The man beside the helicopter stepped into Wolf's path, trying to wave him off with a smile. "Consort discretion clearance," he said smoothly, "nothing to log. This is an internal goodwill transfer, no escort required." Wolf didn't move. "That's not the procedure for Pad C departures. I'll need verification." The pilot's smile faded slightly. "It's all been handled through the consort's private office. We're cleared." Wolf didn't blink. "Then present the clearance." No one responded. The aide with the overnight case stepped onto the stairs. The other waited for Camilla, already climbing the ramp. The rotors began spinning faster, slicing through the drizzle, scattering rain off the stone in wide, shimmering arcs. Wolf took a single step back and tapped the comms mic, clipped to his collar. "Windsor Ops. This is Sergeant Wolf. Pad C is active with an unscheduled consort departure. I need protocol verification now. No manifest, no signed pilot, no clearance trail, confirm or deny. A burst of static came through. Stand by. Camilla was nearly inside. The helicopter, fully lit now, began emitting that unmistakable high-pitched whine that came just before lift and on the stone below. Wolf's boots didn't move. Because if this was a departure, it was the quietest one ever attempted by someone born into a throne, and he wasn't about to let it happen without someone answering for it. Winds up to pad C. The voice crackled through Wolf's earpiece. We have a routing anomaly. Wolf stepped behind the stair vehicle, half shielded from the rotor's rising gale. Go ahead. That chopper isn't listed under international departure. It's domestic. Short-range route filed for 25 minutes. Destination is a private LZ unregistered. Wolf's brow furrowed. Where? Coordinates drop in the Chiltern Hills. Estate listed under a holding company. North Redcliffe Trust. Wolf's eyes sharpened. He knew that name. The trust was linked to none other than Tom Parker B.S., Camilla's son. The same estate used for private tastings and off-book meetings. The same parcel of land flagged in a custodial audit last spring, dismissed due to non-royal usage. He spoke low, deliberate. Are there any formal handover documents tied to this transfer? Negative. And nothing logged under custodial or legacy logistics. We're running a blank trail. And Sergeant, go ahead. That helipad isn't certified, no CCTV, no airstrip lockdown. If those cases land there, we lose custodial chain. Wolf looked up. Camilla was now inside the helicopter, seated behind tinted glass. The pilot returned to the stair rail and began pulling it up with a clank of wet metal. One aide had entered already. The other, the one with the long case, paused at the base, checking a phone, glancing toward Wolf with impatience. Wolf stepped toward him. You'll need to wait. Visibility is dropping. Safety protocol requires a 10-minute delay for rotor friction checks in this weather. The aide scoffed. We're under orders to lift immediately, and I'm under orders not to compromise air safety for anyone. The man hesitated, clearly flustered. He stepped away, fumbling for his phone. Wolf didn't wait. He keyed into the custodian link on his secondary device. The call rang once, then twice. Then it picked up custodian line. A voice answered. Steady low. Sir, this is Sergeant Darian Wolf at Pad C. A pause, then the voice clarified. This is William Wolf, drew breath. Sir, the Queen Consort is boarding an unlogged helicopter with restricted cargo. No manifest, no verification, no escort. Destination is a private estate linked to Tom Parker Bowles. We believe the cargo is legacy affiliated. William didn't hesitate. Is she aboard? Yes. Sir Wolf watched as the rotors surged louder. Then you're not stopping a flight, William said calmly. You're stopping a transfer. Another pause, then the command. Hold position. Do not let that aircraft depart. British custody. I'm authorizing Aerial Custodial Directive 14, immediate inspection and retention rights, Sergeant. That aircraft doesn't leave the ground. Wolf's jaw locked. Understood. And with that, he turned back toward the pad just as the skids flexed and the helicopter began to rise. Wolf moved fast. His boots hit the wet flagstones with sharp, steady rhythm as he circled back toward the edge of Pad C, where the helicopter's skids were already lifting a few inches off the ground. The rotors were near full thrust now, rain slicing in spirals as they cut through the morning mist. The tail light blinked red, then green, ready for ascent. But Wolf didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't shout. He just tapped into his encrypted comms again, his fingers moving quickly across the Militara wrist tablet buckled under his sleeve. Winds-Ops, he said. Confirm reception of Directive 14 activated by custodian authority. The reply came swift. Confirmed. Clock synced. Windsor Ops is recording all units notified. Custodial override is live. That was the first gate. The second was personal. Wolf scrolled to a locked contact tile, pressed his thumb to the scanner, and waited. The call rang once, then twice. Sergeant Wolf, came the voice, calm, clipped. Prince William. Sir, Wolf said without preamble. Aircraft EC-145 is lifting, now Camilla is aboard. There is no escort, no manifest, no royal authorizations. Cargo is unknown, but consistent with protected legacy profiles. Departure is toward an unverified private estate, North Redcliffe Trust property. William's pause was brief. Pilot identified as Rowan Firth, but FTH retired last year, likely impersonation or unauthorized hire. Another pause. Wolfe could hear the faint rustle of fabric, the movement of William rising from somewhere, then visual on the cases. Yes, sir, 2 total, 1 lock-cased, 1 reinforced document trunk, both loaded manually. No seal tracking. William's tone dropped to ice. If those cases land at that estate, they vanish. The legal chain ends. Wolfe said nothing. "Sergeant, you are to board that aircraft if necessary," William said. "Under Directive 14, you are the final line of custodial protection. This is not political anymore. It's institutional." Wolfe glanced at the aircraft, its nose angled forward, skids beginning to hover cleanly off the wet pad. "Understood, sir." William's voice hardened. "Then do it." The line went dead. Wolfe dropped the wrist tablet, tightened the leather strap around his forearm, and sprinted toward the aircraft. He didn't hesitate because when an aircraft lifts under darkness, under false clearance with the Queen Consort aboard and legacy cargo in the hold, what you're seeing isn't departure. It's extraction, and he was the only one who could stop it. The rotors screamed now, full blade arc slicing through the drizzle like a threshing wind. The helicopter lifted by inches, skids scraping the pad edge before clearing it entirely. The downdraft scattered rain in wild spirals across the terrace. One aide was still climbing in, gripping the side rail. The other sat behind Camilla, clutching the diplomatic case like a lifeline. Wolfe didn't stop to think. He sprinted, boots hammered wet stone, coat whipping behind him, eyes locked on the skids just as they rose chest height off the pad.